Play a little game as we start the show.
What?
Do you know any more than you did yesterday? After hearing the general manager of the team come out and he talked like 36 minutes or something.
Was it that long? I actually turned it off, I have to admit.
The stream went about 40 minutes. He didn't talk till about 4 minutes in.
Yeah, so they started the stream, and he was up there, and then they went back to the break screen, and then they brought him back again, like mid-answer, or mid his opening statement, like in the middle of the first sentence, and then he just talked a whole lot of nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's how I felt that from the beginning, and I just like, I got something to do. This is not, I mean, after Amy made her statement, I thought it was really tough situation for him to really answer questions truthfully all the way down to even him and Mike Vrabel never had any, disagreements or conflicts and,
We were in lockstep.
Yeah,
I wrote that quote down.
I was like, oh, wow. Well, I don't maybe Vrabel's team that put that out there to the national media was not true. Oh, no, it was. He just didn't want to say it. You know what? I look from the whole point of view. I felt like, okay, this is like when somebody passes away and you're up there speaking and you're not going to say anything negative about them because that's not the time or the place.
Right. Fred was a terrible human being. No one liked Fred. Right.
And so that's kind of how I approached it after listening to him halfway through. And then I was like, we're not going to get anything here. And then all the reporters, they're trying to get answered questions. They're talking over each other and everything else. So I just was like, I'm not going to get anything out of it. There's no way. I mean, yeah, man. I didn't listen to the tail end of it. I mean, did he ever say anything?
They may give Skoronski a look at tackle.
Oh, did he say that?
That came up later.
Yeah, someone did ask him about that. Because,
Yeah.
Well, so they
how in the world are you this bad at tackle and you draft an All-American tackle first? You don't give him a look at that. Well, he was a guard. We'll give him a look at guard. He's trying to learn that. We didn't want him to complicate things. I'm paraphrasing. It's all written down. We could read it. And, it's like, would you consider giving him a shot? We'll consider. Yeah. We'd consider. Yeah, we'd consider.
Okay, now hearing that, does that mean Vrabel wanting to make guard, so we let Vrabel do Vrabel? Now that Vrabel's not here, see, this is how I read through things. That could be an option. Not saying that it will or that it won't. I'm just reading the tea leaves. If somebody said that, then you say, well, why didn't you do that then? Because they didn't.
It'll be very interesting to see how that influences, and whatever head coach, how that influences how they draft coming up. Because if they are going to think about Skoronski at tackle, do you draft a tackle at 7? If you're committing yourself, and he didn't, but if you're committing yourself to give Skoronski a look, are you really going to draft a tackle at 7 if you're going to put Skoronski there regardless?
It's a bad time to be having to figure that out, isn't it?
It's a terrible time to be figuring that out.
You
have no idea what Skoronski is going to be. Exactly.
Nope.
So the only way I'd take a risk on that is if I'm going to say this. I'd make him the front side tackle, not the back side. No,
I guess it's an option, but then you need a left guard.
Yeah, well, guard's easier to find than a tackle, though. That's those guys are supposed to be cream of the crop, but yeah, that probably won't happen. He'll still be a left guard. Dang, he said, "Oh wow."
We may give Peter a look. Talking about left tackle, I found that's the quote. Peter's a player I would never bet against and say that he couldn't do something or that he couldn't play. But we thought at the time when we drafted him, we'd put Peter at guard and he'd be a mainstay. I know a lot of people are upset because he was up there 30-something minutes and he didn't really say anything. We were talking about this before the show. Like Blaine said, it's like the day after a funeral. You're not going to go up there and say a bunch of bad stuff. You're just not going to. And somebody said, I feel sorry for him. I don't feel he's getting paid to evaluate players and sometimes to stand in front of the media.
Yeah.
It's a bad situation. But your job description says sometimes you got to talk to the media.
Well, I mean, especially when your owner is not going to sit down and talk to and take questions.
Yep.
That is part of your job. Yep. No different than Vrabel taking questions on when a player messed up out there. I mean, they probably went over it 50 billion times. You got to take the bullets. I mean, to be honest, and answer the questions. That's how it goes.
And this is from a fan perspective. I just wish someone who was in the room when it happened had been up there answering questions. And I'm glad she put out the video with Mike Keith. I think Mike Keith did a great job asking her questions.
Yeah.
But I wish she would have been in a media setting and not what I can only assume were predetermined questions for her to prepare. What is what I can only assume.
I think that's a fair assumption.
And I just wish she would have taken just some of them. Maybe not the whole time, but just some of them so we could have her perspective of someone in the room in a natural, wild environment and not a predetermined environment.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should have been both of them up there. I do.
All right, I'm gonna ask you guys this, since that's what a lot of the people here locally are saying. I'm just trying to, outside of big name owners, Jerry Jones comes to mind. When does the owner sit down and take questions from the national media or local media? So I think we're going a little too
maybe
far
asking
here.
for something that doesn't happen.
Yeah. I just I'm sure it happens in some cities because I'm not listening to all of them, but I've never seen on TV, owners getting bombarded with questions about things that happen with the organizations. It's always kind of predetermined when they are taking questions outside of probably, I'm going to just say, a handful of guys.
Well, let's think about just this coaching cycle. What teams that have fired their head coach have their owners spoken publicly? Didn't Tepper speak publicly earlier in the season after?
Well, he was a new owner.
And
that's a one-time.
Didn't Arthur Blank? Is it Blank or Black?
Blank.
Blank he spoke after firing Arthur Smith, I believe. So I mean, there's two.
But did
just
he get bombarded with questions by their media?
I wasn't sure. I didn't
so.
follow it that, but I just know he spoke publicly and not like how Amy
spoke
did it
publicly just now.
Yep.
See, she spoke publicly, and she's not actually asked. She doesn't have to do that.
Yeah, and I know she doesn't. Yeah, I know she doesn't.
That's what I think we're expecting more than what we've seen in general, and to me, that sets the platform to say that, oh yeah, we should get all of this carte blanche. We should be able to get the owner and sit there. I mean, man, I don't remember that. Besides when Rand was hired, which was and Vrabel was up there. I'm trying to think over the time of just say here with Amy. I would say she's more visible than most.
She's been visible.
I get it because it's change and we want answers, but there are no answers yet. That's just how I looked at it. I didn't expect very much at all.
Yeah.
To be honest. Once she made her statement, that's all I needed to hear. Rand is employed by his owner, and he wasn't going to speak against anything that she spoke on and go into detail of any of that. So I want to ask anybody else out there, if their boss made a statement and they're the CEO of a company, and then you are, let's say, branch manager over, the state of Tennessee, I don't think you'll be coming out speaking against what the CEO said about the company. You're going to go lock in step, whether you agree with it or not, because if you don't, you will not be employed. So I think people will lose perspective in sports that is so different than the corporate world. It's not any different. The boss is the boss, and that's how it goes. No different in your house. The parents are the boss. And you better abide by the rules, or you may get punished. And the punishment in the corporate world, in the sports, is you get fired. So do I want more answers? Yes, but I don't know if they thought that this was the time, based off how they were talking, that we were going to get any information outside of what Amy said.
Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of both their answers and some of their questions is I'm not ready to share that at this moment, especially in terms of the vision of the team moving forward, who the new head coach would report to. I know they both were like, we'll share that we'll share that at the end of the process.
Right. So some of these big city markets, I'm interested to see. I want to see where Arthur Blank, as Georgia's, Atlanta's a big market. There's some people are saying that he was asked a few tough questions. So, I'd love to see how he responded to him. So, but yeah, it's just, I think we're asking for something that doesn't happen a lot. It definitely happens. But this was a time maybe that you wanted to speak up, but maybe they wanted to wait and go down the road to see, and then maybe they answer the question. They may not ever answer the questions, really, to be honest. I know people wanted more because I wanted more. That's why I turned it off. I said, this is the corner nowhere. We were talking in circles.
The other issue I had with Rand being the one speaking is he's worked with Vrabel for 1 year. That was the only other issue is like he knows Vrabel, but he doesn't know Vrabel like that. He might. I don't know. It didn't feel like someone who's worked with him for 1 year should be the one answering questions about letting a guy who's been with this organization for 6 years and had a huge turnaround when he first started should be the one answering those questions. That was my only.
Yeah, they probably. Yeah. I mean, did y'all want him to come on and say, man, you know what? Me and Vrabel just really disagreed on a lot of different players. And then guess what? That opens the can of worms of 50 billion questions now. Yep. What players? What did y'all disagree on? What do you want, man? So then the presser goes in a whole nother. We might have been sitting there an hour or two. And so I think he had to play it like that and, take the punches and the blows and look, somewhat like a ding-dong.
Well, again, 30-something minutes from Rand Carthon, a recorded message with Amy Adams Strunk and Mike Keith. So we did get both of those things yesterday. So lots to sort out with that. The Titans also had released a statement that some people are kind of going back to and trying to read stuff into. So we'll